Larry Dickerson, Chairman, CEO of Diamond Offshore. It's great to have you here. You know, it's not getting any easier right now to drill on the Gulf Coast. Just how hard is it right now, even though the moratorium's been lifted?
Well, the moratorium's gone, but we found that issuance of permits have been very slow. We had a meeting, I guess, week before last with Secretary Salazar down in Houma, Louisiana, and they indicated that they're committed to resumption of drilling, but so far the number of permits that have been issued are just very, very small.
So there may as well still be a moratorium as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think we're moving in the right direction. I take them at face value that they are committed to that, but I think there's a certain amount of bureaucratic inertia as they work their way through changes and figuring out what it takes to approve a permit.
And let's talk about the jobs, because that's a huge part of the story. Have you had to lay off people because of this?
Yes, we've laid off about 450 people since the Macondo incident back in April, and that's the result of us moving about 4 rigs overseas to various markets, primarily Brazil, West Africa, and Egypt.
So those rigs have left?
Those rigs have left.
And they're not coming back?
They're not coming back anytime soon, certainly. And they take some of the U.S. jobs with them, but anywhere between a half to 2/3 of the jobs are then sourced locally, which is required under contract. And the jobs that we shed, our average salary in the Gulf of Mexico is $77,000 a year.
Working on a rig? Working
on a rig with 6 months off. So this is the kind of high-paid, blue-collar craft job that I think the nation talks about losing. It's really kind of a manufacturing-level wage, and it's really irreplaceable. So under the current economic conditions, I think I would like to see the government put a higher priority on restoration of those jobs, because we can drill safely out there.
Now, there are a ton of new rigs being built. By some estimates, they're increasing the drilling fleet by about 20%. Do we really need all these new rigs?
I think what will happen is some of the older rigs will be retired. We're looking at some of our rigs in the worldwide fleet and in our own fleet that are 30 to 35 years old, and they are maintained and they can still drill, but you're starting to see new technology displace some of those rigs.
And is there a safety issue? In other words, what happened to BP? You need a new rig, right? You don't want to run an old rig.
I don't think that was a factor of an old rig. I think the issue that took place there, it was similar to the other 2 large-scale disasters, the Exdoc blowout in Mexico and then the Platform A in Santa Barbara in 1969. All 3 of those events occurred when drilling mud, which is the primary means of keeping pressures down in the hull, was lifted out or was not placed in there. So making sure that you handle those things is the most important thing that goes on, even more important than all this backup equipment.
Now, talk about handling things. We got to talk earnings, because earnings aren't growing a whole lot. How do you get people excited about buying the stock when earnings are only growing 1 or 2%?
Well, certainly our earnings had been at peak replacement rates, and we're earning a lot more than we're earning today. And when we see the replacement day rates that we roll rigs over at, they're lower. So our earnings have drifted down, but we're still this year we'll be earning in the high $6 range, which is a significant amount of money, we think, when you look at the price of the stock. And then we have a high dividend rate and a good yield. So I think
you're committed to the dividend?
Well, we reevaluate that each quarter, but we've had a big history of doing that. We've got shareholders that are aligned with that goal. So it's not something we take lightly. We think that's a good way to return shareholder value.
Now, I got to ask you, as we kind of wind things up here, China, right now a big customer, right? They're drilling for oil. What if they end up building their own rigs and they become a competitor? Are their economics different?
They've got a couple shipyards and have attempted to build a couple rigs, and I'm sure that they will ultimately be successful. But it is a very high-tech thing, and it's not the kind of thing such as commercial airliners and even advanced automobiles that China has yet successfully conquered.
Okay, Larry Dickerson, Chairman, CEO of Diamond Offshore.